Yeah, I don't know. I was cracking myself up typing it.
I was cracking myself when I was like Bernie Sanders from the fucking podium, 5-star frog splash, and then I pictured it in my mind and I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, well, because whoever said the meme where it was like, because Bernie Sanders, what was it? Like, he was like storming out, or like, it wasn't like the Money in the Bank thing, but it was like something with WWE. Like, he was like,
oh,
no, you
was
said,
it the steel
Bernie
chair
Sanders
one?
with the steel chair.
Oh, yeah, because it was the guy inside of the Capitol, and they were like climbing shit. And it's like, oh, and holy shit, no, it's like, by God,
Yeah,
it's Bernie Sanders with the steel chair.
You said something like someone's about to cash in something like a Money in the Bank, and then I was like, Bernie Sanders is about to come behind one of these Trumpers with a steel chair, just fucking yacht him.
All right, hello guys, and welcome to another episode of the Modern Goonies podcast. I'm your host, Trevor King Minor, and on the mic today, I've got my lovely friend Zach Wright.
What's up?
And Chandler Swing.
How's it going?
What's going on, guys? All right, so we've been doing episodes of the Weekly Charles, but this is an actual full-length podcast, so we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. So a minute ago, you were talking about like drinking a lot, like during the pandemic. You started a story, and then I cut you off.
Oh, well, I was talking about how I had, like, I tried to drink that bottle of Jim Beam, and I just haven't, like, gotten drunk. But I was saying, like, the last time I drank pretty heavily was during quarantine. Like, me, Trevor, and John got pretty fucked up for, like, 3 weeks straight. I always tell people,
Yeah,
I was
we
like,
did.
That was probably the best, like, 3 weeks I've had in, like, such a long time, because I got paid fucking hands over dollars, like, with my, like, unemployment benefits. Like, I got, like, 900, like, something bucks a week for 3 weeks that I was unemployed. And all I did was play games, get hella drunk, and watch Game of Thrones. And that's all I did for 3 weeks, and I made like $3,000. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
like,
no, so my office, that was when we had a COVID. We'd been exposed to COVID, and so that's when we all got sent home, and my life was just fucking miserable working from home because the amount of work that I would get every day was just so fucking insane. And then the system was way slower working at home. Like
there was like boxes of like files like lined up in the living room.
Boxes of files it was just unmanageable. So literally every day I was just miserable. But then you guys would come in and you'd be like drinking or some shit. I'm like, fuck it. So like on the clock, like, it's nowhere near 5. It's like fucking noon or something, and I'm just taking shots with them. I'm literally in my room, like with glasses of whiskey, just getting fucking hammered while I'm doing my work.
I couldn't do that shit.
Me and John averaged like a bottle of liquor a day. For like,
yeah, I bought a shitload of liquor during the pandemic.
Yeah, there was one time when I went to, I think it was just me and John that went to Total Wine and More, but we got you like a bottle of Jane Walker or something.
Yeah.
And we just bought like a bunch of other stuff. That's when we got the sake for sake bombs, and I got like that peach moonshine. But I spent like $300 at the liquor store, like just getting booze for everyone. I was like, Jesus Christ.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Weren't they like closing down or something, and they had like some crazy sale? Or I thought you...
No.
Didn't you get like some good sale for like some stuff at one of those liquor stores? Because people were worried that they were going to like do something. I can't remember. I think people were worried they were going to like close down liquor stores.
So that was why there was such a big surge in everyone buying liquors, because that was when the lockdown initially happened.
I thought it was just because everyone wanted to get drunk and there's nothing else to do when you're locked
at home.
That
too, yeah. But I think people were kind of worried at first if liquor stores were going to be closed because they were closing everything. And then it's like, all right, well, shit, if they're still open, while they're open, let's all fucking run and buy as much liquor as we can because we're going to be bored as fuck in quarantine and we need something to do. But
they didn't know quarantine would last 9 months and counting.
Yeah, a year plus.
Or 10 months.
Yeah, no, life has been so normal for me ever since. I mean, because I went like 2 months working from home, and that's like the drunkest I've been in a long time, just consecutively for 2 months.
Oh my God.
And that was fucking nuts. And then they sent me back to the office after that, and then I've been.
That's when Trevor started bringing flasks to work.
Yeah, and then ever since then, like when I transitioned to my new job, like I still work from the office. So my life has been, the only thing that's really different about my life is that I can't go out to like bars or clubs or things like that anymore. Or like restaurants that have a lot of people or something like that. Or some of them you still have to look and see if, do they do dine-in right now? But for the most part, my life is incredibly normal during this entire thing, which, I mean, I'm blessed for, but still, like, it hasn't been that weird.
Yeah, I think, well, for me, that the no alternatives thing, like you can't do a lot of things you normally would do, is part of it, but I think like the mental aspect of working from home has been the toughest for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's not healthy to wake up and then be in your room and then have your laptop where you woke up and then be there for 9 hours and then a few hour break and then go to sleep in that same spot and do that for 8 months.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I couldn't do that because when I was working at the old job, when I was working at home for 2 months, I was going insane because, like you said, it's like, all right, cool, I'm done with my job or whatever. It's 8:00 at night. Let me walk into the living room.
Yeah, you don't feel like you
Yeah.
really like leave. Like everything kind of feels like work. Like
Yeah, you're
even
just-
when you get off, you're
you
not
don't
like,
have-
oh, I'm so happy to be off. You're
You
like,
don't have that like 30 or whatever minute drive to like unwind, and it's like you're literally leaving work to go home. It's
right.
Yeah, there's
I
no
feel like
separation.
I feel like separation.
I feel like it's just the locale of work and home being at the same place is like you can't differentiate between the two or know when to be working or like when to relax. I can see that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's definitely it's difficult because I didn't realize because I always thought it was like, oh, working from home would be fantastic. And granted, my old job was complete shit, but it also made me realize in general, it's like I don't think I'd like working from home at all. I like that separation of like I get up, I have somewhere to be, and when I'm done there, I can come back home. It like makes coming home and being home feel like more special to you. Like, I don't know.
You pollute your safe and like rest area at home with work bullshit. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like you're driving to work. It's like I fucking hate this place. Like this office sucks. I hate being in this cubicle or at this desk or whatever you're doing all day. And whenever you bring that into work, it's like, fuck, man, I'm so tired of doing this. I'm just gonna take me a break. And then you just walk into the kitchen and
Yeah.
stare at your reflection in the fridge or something. It's like, well, I guess I'll go back to it. Like there's no
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know what
where I'd get into trouble is that like and then no one's really checking your hours too hard. So I'd come back from grabbing my files in the morning, and instead of just getting right to work, I'd be like, fuck it, and I'd pass out for like 2 hours. Like no one's gonna know, and I don't give a shit.
Well, I feel like that was one of the biggest things for me, like, because I would, it's stupid, but I would have like almost like a paranoid, but just like I would feel like shit whenever there'd be parts of the day where, I'd be like fucking on my phone for 30 minutes and like I'll just like move my mouse, or whatever. But then like, I'll hear stories of people like if we're just kind of casually talking and they're like, yeah, I know people are probably like preoccupied with their kids and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sure all those motherfuckers are probably like going in there and watching TV for a little bit and like if their shit's done, but I'm over sitting here thinking, oh, I'm not doing shit. I feel like crap. Like I need to do something. Meanwhile, like everyone else is probably beating off and fucking, So then I started doing it. And it's,
Yeah, just
Hey,
never ends
I
now.
will say I've taken many a nap on company time, and that's about as good as it gets.
I know.
I'm
Yeah.
sending this to your bosses.
Don't worry.
I'm going to isolate that. I'm sending it directly to your bosses.
Don't worry. They've already said they listen to all these podcasts.
Yeah,
which
so there we go. All right, I guess I don't have to do anything.
They
Just
represent
upload it.
25% of the viewership.
Yeah, when they told me that, they're like, we listened to all your little videos or whatever on YouTube. I was like,
They actually told you that?
Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, I'm sorry you did
How
that.
the fuck do they know about it?
I think just because Trevor has tagged me in
I tag
Facebook.
the people who are on it. I'll tag them in it when I post it.
And they'll just like they have nothing else to do, so they'll just like look at people's like social media or
that's kinda
something.
weird.
It's like they're like, oh, let's look at Chandler's Facebook, and then they see that and they're like, oh, he's on a podcast. We're like, let's watch.
Did they
this.
ever have anything to say about it, or were they
No.
just were like, I saw you on there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they really can like.
I bet
say
they didn't sit
anything
down
about
and
it.
watch like the whole hour.
No one
sure,
does.
Surely they didn't. They probably just listened to like the first like 10 minutes and they're like, oh, I mean, that's Chandler. I don't know. Fucking dirt, barbecue. Back to it. I don't know what they do.
Yeah, no, I looked because you can look at analytics. You can see like average watch time, and average is about 10 to 15 minutes, and then people are like, all right, I'm out. So, yeah,
So they would have been out quick on this one.
yeah.
They're like, no one yelled boner as loud as they could. I'm not interested.
Not yet. We saved that for our special viewers at around the hour 45-minute mark.
Yeah, I know, which is like 3% of our viewers.
What is do we even have? Is it possible to have 3% of a viewership at this point? Like if there's 8 people watching, like if it's one person, that's 12% of the viewers. You'd have to have like 20 people or 30 people watching.
No, we just saw a guy in half or some shit.
I'm sorry, what?
Do we get to choose the guy? Just one person out of the viewers. It's like, you have been selected to be sawed in half by the Modern Goonies podcast.
Yeah.
Ryan Kinsler.
Congratulations.
So if 3% of our average viewership is 1.05 persons.
Wow. Okay,
Hey,
so
there we
there
go.
is enough.
Yeah.
We got enough for one person and like a toe or something.
How do you have the analytics?
You go into YouTube and you look at like average viewerships. I mean, technically people could be listening to other places like on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anything, but I don't see the analytics on those, and I doubt they
Not
are.
likely.
Yeah, most people are going to be listening on YouTube. So,
But yeah, I mean, but the work from home thing, I feel like is the main thing. But you know what, like what you were talking about with the not getting drunk that quick or whatever, or you know, I feel like it's the same for me. If I'm at home, I think it just depends on how you do it. Like if you're watching football from like noon to 7, and over the course of 7 hours you have 7 beers, like it's not good because you drank 7 fucking beers. But it's not really the same as if you started at 7 p.m. and then drank 7 beers. Like you'd be
that's
hammered drunk. Like
Well, that's binge drinking. Is like when you do it like so much in like such a short amount of time. But when it's like spread out, like obviously it's not good, but it's not.
right. Well, I'm saying like what you're talking about with the whiskey thing about how you take like a couple shots and like you didn't feel that much, and then you waited a little bit, then took another one, and then it, blah blah blah. I feel like it might not seem like it because you're in your head, you're like, oh, I had 3 shots. That's a lot. But if you did that over like the course of an hour, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like, yeah, it's gonna go away.
Well, no, it was like 3 like back to back to back, and it's like,
Oh shit, I don't know that.
then immediately goes to where I'm like, yeah, I don't feel that drunk. But that, I mean, there's been times where I'd like when I lived with Trevor and I'd like go and visit my parents or something. And I remember one time I had just like 1 Bud Light Platinum, and like,
You're feeling good.
yeah, and I'm like
Yeah.
driving home, like, fuck, dude. I was like, I feel buzzed. I was like, I had 1 fucking beer. I was like, what the fuck's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And then I drink half a bottle of liquor, and I'm like,
yeah.
I'm as sober as a fucking goose.
That happens to me all. My tolerance is all over the fucking place. Like that was happening to me really bad whenever we were in Breckenridge. Like I barely got drunk at all when we were there because, I mean, when Zach and I were carrying around a fucking flask of bourbon the whole time. It was like strong ass bourbon.
No, we were hiking and drinking like just like drinking whiskey, but like in the snow. I mean,
It was
pretty
cold.
awesome.
It was good because like you'd be freezing your ass off, and then when we whip out the flask, and it's like, all right, let's warm our fucking gullet for a second. But yeah, we would just take pulls from this flask that's filled with bourbon, and I mean, shit, I would take like several pulls at once, and no, it wasn't doing anything to me. Like I feel like a little bit, but not for the amount I was drinking. It should have been way more.
I think it always depends on the situation. Like it's like I really think it's like set and setting. Like with weed or something. Like if you're in a place that you're not familiar with, if you have a couple drinks, I feel like you're gonna feel it more than if you always on, let's say me, like on Sunday, like if I'm watching the Chiefs game on Sunday, I'm gonna drink a few beers at my place. Well, that's different than if I were to like go to a bar and have like 3 drinks at the bar. Like I'm going to feel those more because I'm used to it, and I can.
And your diet too has a big part of it too. But
Yeah, if you eat a lot, if I like go on an empty stomach, like 1 beer will be like, damn, like
Yeah.
I'm buzzing. But if I have like a fucking whole steak,
well, now I kind of feel like I'm at the point where it's like normally I would try to do it. It's like, oh well, I mean, it might just be that I don't drink that much as I used to when I was younger. But I mean, sometimes I think like now I'm like, man, I don't want to eat like a big heavy meal because I'm trying to like get a buzz on, and it's getting tougher for me to like actually feel drunk. So I'm like, maybe I should go in on an empty stomach so I can actually enjoy myself and feel a buzz.
Well, that's something else that's like weird for me is that there's sometimes.
And then I turn to Spaghetti Mike.
Yeah. There's sometimes where I'm like, I go in on an empty stomach and I have several drinks and I'm perfectly fine. And then there's other times that I've had like big meals and I go in, I'm like, oh, I'm good. And I'm like fucked up in a couple drinks. I'm like, I have no idea what my tolerance is just all over the place.
yeah, I feel like sometimes it is kind of random. I wonder if it probably is a combination of a bunch of different things. Like your fucking blood sugar might be low one day, and that's why you felt it really hard. And you know.
So I think we've talked about this before, but I mean, I don't know if it's happened to you or not. But have you ever had like a couple drinks at one place and like you're perfectly fine to drive. You're like, all right, cool, like I'm good, I'll drive. You get home and you're like, all right, I wanted to have like another drink since I'm back now. I don't have to worry about drinking and driving. You have one and you just feel like you fucking drank 10.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened? Because that happens to me all the time.
Not in that scenario where like I get home and then I have another drink, because usually like if I know I have to drive, like I just like have like my cutoff point where I'm like, yeah, I gotta drive home, like I gotta take the last couple bars we go to and like sober up or something. But excuse me. But I've definitely, I feel like it's just like there's a tipping point like at some point, because there's been times where I've been out and like drinking where I know if I don't have to drive at any point like at the night, I'm like, I don't mind like getting like fucked up. There's been times when we've gone to like a couple bars or something and had a couple beers and a couple shots. I'm like, you know, I'm feeling it. I feel a little loose, like feel pretty mellow, and then go to one bar and I have like 2 beers and we're leaving that. When I get outside, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, holy shit, I'm so drunk. But even then, that could just go back to like being just different things, like what you ate that day. Like it could all just hit you at once. But
yeah, could be. Yeah. I just know. Yeah, because you've mentioned that it's happened, but I don't know what it is. It's happened to John a couple times too, because John came back from the harbor one time and he'd only had like a couple beers, and then I fed him a cup.
I think I remember. Was that whenever? I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So he comes back and like
people want to know.
And he was like, you could tell he was like maybe a little buzzed or something, but he was perfect. He was fine to drive. And then I gave him like a drink, and he was like 1 or 2 of those in, and I mean just like fucking hammered. And he said the same thing. He's like, it's so weird. Like why does that happen to me? It's happened a couple times.
That was the same night whenever like John said something to Zach's girlfriend and got taken a bit awry, and there was...
Yes, yeah, it was the same night. So we're back after a short break, and we are now going to go into discussing what happened a couple days ago with the storming of the Capitol. So, guys, initial thoughts of all this bullshit that transpired, or...
I mean, it's hard to really process everything that comes so fast. Like,
I want to throw this coffee cup at Zach. I'm going to fucking throw it on him.
Go for
I'm
it.
going to fucking kill him. I'm going to storm your fucking asshole, you piece of shit.
I think it...
Anyway.
Chandler, you were saying about the...
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I think it's just crazy, like, how much shit, like, we have to process and, like, move on with. Like, I don't know, like... I mean, maybe there wasn't a whole lot. I can't really think of anything like a big like notable event like in December, but it just feels like every like week or like every couple of weeks, so there's just like some bombshell like shit that happens, and it's like holy shit. It's like, all right, well, let's like try and figure this out, pick up the pieces, and like everyone's like scrambling to like kind of like come together, and it's like, oh, okay, you want to, oh, boom, there's another one. They're like, now we're storming the Capitol. It's like, what the fuck's gonna happen now? It's like there's never like any pause for like just to like try and reconvene and just like get yourself back together. Like it's always like something's happening, and if you lose interest, then boom, something else happens. It's like,
yeah, it was a pretty unrelenting year for the most part, because pandemic, then mass protest, then pandemic gets worse, then election, then election fraud, then fucking
fraud.
Yeah. Not accepting the results, major Senate race after that, like determines who has control of the House, and then fucking protests, riot, storming, don't even know. Like, you don't even have time to orient yourself and really get like a good opinion before this next thing happens that like turns everything else on its head again. And it's been just so fucking wacky. This has definitely been one of the craziest years that I've ever experienced, for sure.
It doesn't feel like a new year to me though. Like it just feels like 2020 part 2. Like,
yeah, I feel it started off great, right? It's like, okay, hey, the cases are the worst they've been so far, and then also there was a fucking riot at the Capitol, so
yeah, dude, it's so crazy, because I was just I was at home and just like playing video games or something. I think I looked at our group message or something and saw it, and I was like, what the fuck? And I just like turned on the TV. I was like, holy shit. And I was like just glued to like my TV until like I had to go for work. And then while I was there, I'm like listening to the radio about it, or like trying to like find YouTube videos about it like while I'm driving. I'm like, dude, this is fucking crazy. I'm like, this... it's insane. Like how shit like goes down now, and it's just like supposed to be like, yeah, you know, I mean, it's no big deal. Like we just stormed the Capitol. It's like we just stormed like one of the most like prestigious and I wouldn't say like sacred. I don't know like the word I'm looking for, but I mean, motherfucker, it's like it's the U.S. Capitol. Like I mean, there's no other way to say. Like what did you want to do? Like what was? I don't see like the end game.
They
like,
wanted to stop the electoral count because they thought
the certification.
Yeah.
Well, I understand like the reason for them being there, but it's like, what are you gonna do? Like once you get inside, or like what? Like
start murdering the fucking senators.
Well, now that I say that, actually, I remember one thing. Like they found like on some people that when they were like had arrested them or like were searching them or whatever, like a lot of people had like zip ties on them. Like they're ready to like fucking kidnap motherfuckers. Like, and you know it pissed me off. Like I got in an argument with my dad about it, but I don't really want to go into too much about it because it's just fucking crazy. But like they're fucking terrorists. Like there's no other way to label it. Like that was an act of terror. Like you're trying to kidnap government officials, and you trying to like kill people. Like you can look and like or listen to like videos of like people like out and like I was like break the fuck in, let's get those fuckers, string them up. It's like.
Yeah.
You are so disconnected from reality that like you think that you can just storm a government building with the intent of kidnapping or harming government officials and think you can just like get off scot-free about it. I hope they fucking lay down the hammer of justice on these people.
Well, they're already started. They've already arrested like 70 people or something.
I know, it's nuts.
I just read something, and I didn't know this. This one I thought was crazy, but
I think we're thinking of the same thing, probably.
Maybe, but there was like a GOP lawmaker. Did you see about that?
I know he was like some delegate from like a southern like
from
state
Virginia.
Yeah. That got arrested. Like the FBI like went to his home and arrested him like at his house because he was at the riots. Like
I don't know.
Was one of the people that stormed the Capitol.
Yeah, he's like a GOP. He was on like the House of Delegates for Virginia or whatever, and he was like a part of that. And literally broke into the fucking Capitol building. Like
what's crazy to me is like these people like don't like. I guess it just, I mean, honestly, it's like it's a form of privilege, like to just be able to think like the people that are posing, like the dude that's like walking out with the podium and he's like waving and like smiling to the camera, like you are committing a felony and you're posting a selfie of you doing a felony. It's like, what do you think is going to be the outcome? You just think you got to walk away from this shit? Like it's going to be okay? Like you put your name and your face and your info out there of you committing these illegal acts, like, there's going to be repercussions. Like, what the fuck do you think's going to happen? You're just going to walk away from it.
Well, honestly, it kind of seemed like they could just fucking do that when I was watching it. I was like, how in the hell? Like, because
literally, yeah, they could just walk in and do whatever the fuck they want.
I don't even know how that shit was possible because they knew that this was a big point of contention, and it has been for a while, ever since the election has happened. Like Trump's been saying, and it's all false. Everyone's constantly worried about the electoral. The certification of each state. You know, people were showing up, basically sending, what was it, Georgia, some of the swing states, sending their representatives death threats for, wanting to count the vote, stop counting the vote, and then this happens, and clearly people were going to show up. People knew that people were going to show up. They'd been planning this for a while. So it's like, how the fuck did you not have like a bunch of security out there ready for all of these protesters? Like people knew this was going to happen, and I don't know how that was so fucking easy for them.
I've never been to D.C. before, but what I just imagine, like the Capitol building, like it has more than like 5 on-duty like security officers, like at all times. Like I figure like there's like a pretty like strong unit, like just within D.C. Like there's so many different like buildings where government business is done that there'd be a stronger force there. But it just seems like it'd be like the fucking your local Walmart. Like you just walk up and there's like one dude at the front who's supposed to be like your security or something. That's what it felt like at the Capitol. Like you just walk up and like I could see it like being like the dude's just like he goes in and like puts in his like clocking thing in the machine. He's like, oh, there's another day on the job. He's got a cup of Joe and like a half-eaten donut in one hand. Just like looks out the front door and there's like 10,000 MAGAs out there. He's like, oh shit, like.
Well, I can't remember, somebody said something about it in the group chat. Maybe somebody on Joe Rogan's podcast said how people have been able to just straight up walk into the Capitol building sometimes, and like,
Yeah, I mean, you can go like to the Capitol building, but I mean, just like one person like walking in, like it's not like a huge like security thing, I don't think. But I mean, when you amass a small army outside, like, I mean, there's nothing like, even if they had like a fully like trained like or like a fully staffed like security, like if they had like 25 like 50 people there, like you're not gonna stop them. Like it's just so many.
Well, yeah, clearly
A
not.
number of people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just such a huge number of people. Like, there's nothing else you can do.
Yeah, I mean, like, I still think even if you had a bunch of people out there that they still probably would have got, if they wanted to get in, they were going to get in. They're a fucking mob. Like, but it just seems way too fucking easy for it to be one of the, like you were saying earlier, most like prestigious buildings of the United States that you can just that easily with a mob outside, you can just get into it. Like, I don't know. Figured there'd be a bit more of a fight. And I think there was like later, maybe as they were coming out, because I saw police like beating the shit out of people in the streets or something. So like, okay, maybe. So
what I think there's a kind of talking on my ass here. I could be wrong, but I think that there's like two different like levels of policing in DC. Like there's like this because there's like the city police that just like do like the normal like city stuff, and then there's like the DC like police, and I think they're different levels. Like they do different things. Like one's like mostly like for like the government buildings and things like that, and the other's just like a local like police enforcement. I think once like the DC police got there, that's when like you see the videos of the dudes that like the cops that are like, and they're all black like riot gear, and they are beating the living shit out of people. Like like they're like back up. They're like backpedaling. They're like, that's not fast enough. And fucking boom.
Oh
yeah, fucking push that people back a quarter block.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been 4 years of desensitization of everything. Like, and I think people don't recognize, like, if you look back, it seems dramatic, but day to day, you don't realize it because it's human nature. Mm-hmm. You're going to, if you're used to hearing certain kind of news, eventually, if it's going on every day, it becomes white noise. So shit that would be like breakdown, fall apart of civilization 5 years ago is just like, this is just Tuesday.
Yeah,
and then Friday.
It's your afternoon news shit.
Well, I saw a tweet the other day. I thought it was fucking hilarious, and they were talking about it was right after the Capitol got stormed. Then somebody was like, "Well, that steadily escalated for 4 years," and I thought that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I saw that. But yeah, I mean, like, I it's just crazy to me because of that desensitization across that period of time, and also that the president is basically encouraging the American people to not have faith in the system that holds the country together. Like, even people that would never think these things, or that people that very, specifically hold this country dear, or the foundations it's built upon, that he can get those same people to go against it in this way is crazy. I mean, well, it's not crazy, but it's like very deliberate, and I don't know. I mean,
really, it's you reap what you sow. Like you see, like so many like Republican like senators or House members or whoever like saying like, "Gosh, this is like so unprecedented. Like we didn't want any of this. Like we just need to all pray as a nation or something." It's like, no, it's like you wanted this. It's like
you aided and embedded a guy who was actively saying that he wanted shit like this.
For months. I guess just for like the past 2 months, like ever since this election, like results came out, like you've been saying, like you've been telling a group of, what is it, like 80 million people that voted for Trevor, something like that. You've been telling a third of the country that your vote doesn't matter. They stole this from you. There's nothing you can do about it.
We have to fight. We can't let them do this.
Yeah, I mean, if you tell like such a large like group of people that what they think is like a God-given right to them, which is, I mean, being born in America, I mean, it is your right to vote and have a democracy in our country. That's how it should be. But when you are constantly told by the president of the fucking United States, like the one person, like the voice of reason you should like try and adhere to, is telling you that you got fucking jibbed, you got robbed, chief, like obviously they're gonna fucking resort to like violence. It's like what the fuck else, where else was this gonna go? Like, you keep telling these people like your voice doesn't matter, your voice got stolen, your vote's stolen, like this is all fraudulent, but what are you gonna do? It's like, obviously you know what they're gonna do. They're gonna do something fucking crazy like this.
Well, he wanted. I don't. Okay, so 100%, Trump wanted a mob to come up to D.C.
Right.
I don't think he wanted people to break into the Capitol and destroy government property and shit. Because
I don't
Because I
think
think
that
he
was the
is of if anything, he is very good at manipulating, and he's very good at public spectacle.
Yeah, he's. I mean, you can hate the guy all you want, but you can't deny that he's charismatic.
He's a cult of personality, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever I think in his mind, he thinks we're going to have all these people show up and fight this, and just the optics of it in general is going to be powerful, because you're going to have, like you said, probably like around a third of the country that feel disenfranchised by our system of government, like the very institution of our system of government. Not just, like, everyone knows that a lot of politicians are crooked and they don't have our best interests at heart at all times. Like, we all know that, and it's just an objective fact. But whether or not the election is legitimate, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like the most extreme accusation you could make.
It really goes down to like the roots of your country and like how it's run and like how you, like the morals of your leadership, like type of thing. Like, I mean, you base yourself on a democracy, but when you have your elected leader telling you that your democracy is broken and fraudulent, like, yeah, I mean, people are going to get pissed off. Like,
well, and think of like, so Russia, and I think that they determined that, I can't remember, I think it was Iran also, were whenever they confirmed that they were, you know, attempting to manipulate our elections or our social media or whatever to sway public opinion. And the purpose of that is to decrease the confidence of the American people in our system.
yeah, I'm sure.
And then our president goes in and fucking, they threw the alley-oop to Trump and he fucking windmill dunks it. Like, I mean, that's exactly what they wanted, and it's even worse. It's even better for them than they could have even possibly imagined in their wildest dreams.
I'm sure there's so many countries and like leaders of foreign countries that have ill will against America that are having the best time of their life right now, watching us just fucking burn ourselves alive from the inside out. Like,
I think the thing that's the most annoying to me is that, so the Republican Party and Trump creates this narrative at the beginning, pretty much as far back as they said, hey, we're going to do mail-in voting because of the pandemic, as far back as that, saying this election is going to be fucking fraudulent. So they create this narrative, and then they say it, 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 and they never fucking stop spouting it all over Fox News and all of their Parler, whatever the fuck it is that they have. Trump says it. They're constantly talking about it, constantly saying it. No basis in reality. There is no evidence to prove any of this. And even if there is, it's a very, very small amount. Spouting it off, constantly saying it. And then they spin it back around and they're like, well, I mean, if you look, there's a lot of people in the American public that really just have doubts about the legitimacy of our election. It's like, yeah, because you keep fucking yelling this on your news networks all the time. If you're constantly saying it over and over and over and over again, of course they're going to start thinking that shit because you won't shut the fuck up about it.
I think there's
that's
some
100% true. They act like they didn't create the monster.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they are the ones that have been touting the shit from the very beginning.
I feel like there's some old adage that's like you tell a lie like so much that it becomes like an unspoken truth or like something, like they've just like created this lie, which it really is. Like, I mean,
it's just not true. Like, it's just, and Republicans have looked into it, and Republican attorneys won't touch it because they know it's so fucking stupid.
The Republican-led Supreme Court has denied every lawsuit that comes its way.
I know. Like, I've tried making this argument with Republican friends that I have, and it's like, well, I don't have any faith in the Supreme Court that they won't even look at the accounts of the fraudulent election. They won't even look at the evidence. I'm like, yeah, it's the Supreme Court. I'm like, they are the highest level of judges that we have in this country, and it's the only form of the three parts of our government that is Republican majority, so it should be in your favor. But it's like any judge. If the evidence isn't there, like, they're not going to do anything about it. They're going to be like, there's nothing there. Like, you can't do anything when there's nothing there. But
they're bringing in people into court, like, saying that they saw, like, did you see the woman that they brought in to give like
a testimony?
actual testimony, and she was hammered. Like literally drunk.
I don't think so.
And she was like arguing with the guy that was questioning her, like to get her
try and
deposition.
pull it up if you can. Or are you not connected?
Well, no, I could probably do that. Yeah, I'll try it.
Maybe.
That's fucking hilarious.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, what gets me is like people will say like to try and like validate the like fraudulent elections. They're like, well, people have said like that they see it, like they saw it like while they're at the polls. I'm like, how the fuck do you see that like while you're at the polls? Like you literally like go in and verify your ID, and then you go to like a booth with fucking blinders on it. You write it down or you do it electronically, and then you're done. Like you don't get like. Do these people like scope the building out? Or are they fucking Sly Cooper? Like
So here's the funny thing about that. So their argument kind of started to change. So they were doing that. They were bringing people in, saying like, oh, I saw this, I did that. Literally just like all hearsay. And
yeah, that's literally exactly what it is.
And then in some of the cases where they were looking at it, they're like, well, where's your proof? And their argument was literally the election fraud was so good that there's no evidence of it happening because it happened so good. And it's like, what the?
Open and closed case.
Who
All right,
the
there's
fuck
no evidence.
is going to touch that?
Yeah, I mean, and that's like to go back to like the Capitol thing, but that's like the baseless claim that like a lot of Republicans are going to. They're like, this is like deep, like undercover Antifa members that started this. Like the real Trump supporters weren't in the Capitol. These were all Antifa members that were bussed in, and there's videos of the Antifa members like getting off the bus and like going to storm the Capitol. It's like, is there like a fucking like a name tag? Is there like a red beanie that Antifa members wear? You can just like point out a crowd and be like, no, they're Antifa. Like literally everyone's fucking Antifa.
No,
like that's like the the biggest
not
like scapegoat for like everything. Like if I'm late for work one morning, like they're gonna be like, Chandler, or where are you at, man? You're 20 minutes late. You didn't say anything. Be like, fuck, dude. Antifa was holding up the fucking I-30. I mean, I think they were Antifa. They looked like it to me. It's like
those same people that like. Usually, it's the same kind of people that say these things are the same people that those type of people do not feel any personal responsibility for there to be any justification for what they're saying. Like, they could say, okay, I think global warming is a hoax. Okay, why do you think that? Well, okay, the government's gotten it wrong before. Okay, so, but why specifically do you think that this specific theory is not right? I just don't think that's right. Like, no, you can't just think something is not true or not when it's an objective, tangible fact. You can't just have your own opinion on whether or not there's global warming because you're not a climate scientist.
You can have an opinion on something where an opinion is,
any subjective topic.
Yeah, it has to be subjective. But when there's an objective fact, you can have an opinion on it, sure, but your opinion will be wrong for the most part and baseless. But you can have an opinion, but you can't argue objective fact with just I just say like I don't believe it, like that's not true.
Yeah. Hey, why do you think that they stole the election? Well, they're just crooked, and he was up by big, and then all of a sudden he loses in one night. How does that happen?
Trump had 50,000 people at his rally, and Biden had 20 people. There's no way. That's one thing I hate too. Like people like compare like the sizes that like Trump would have at his rallies. Like he had 25,000 people in his crowd. Biden only had like 100 people. It's like, yeah, Trump has 25,000 people crowded together, nut to butt, super spreading fucking COVID.
that like, don't give a fuck about COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, but hey, silent majority.
Yeah.
Well, I think that honestly has some merit whenever you consider how much people are tied to their political party despite what they claim to stand for, and they will do it above all else.
Yeah, I just don't see how you can use the like seeing the size of a crowd and use that as an argument to say like who voted for who. It's like I mean like I can't even imagine like what the ratio would be to like the number of people that like go to political rallies versus the number of people that like actually vote. Like
yeah,
only like crazy motherfuckers really go to like the actual like political rallies, like normal like just day to day like layman folk. They're just like go about their day. Usually don't care to. They're like watch it on TV or something. Like they don't want to like go
be super passionate about politics.
You can't use like the crowd size, especially during a global health pandemic where large crowds are either ill-advised or against the law or mandate whatever the fuck you break that down however you want. Like obviously there's going to be some difference in crowd sizes. You can't use that as a way to say the election is stolen and you need to fucking break into the U.S. Capitol and try and kidnap U.S. senators because of, I mean, it's just, I don't know how, it's so upsetting just to like think about and like trying to like break down like all of it, like how like we got to this point, but it's like, I mean, it has to be leading somewhere. Like, for like all the shit that they've been spewing, like it has to lead to somewhere. Like, it's not like you can't just get like this, like a third of the country like so riled up and pissed off, and they're just like boiling with anger, and then just like expect them to just be like, just like fizzle out like after the 20th.
Well, we lost, time to go home. Like, it's not.
Like you're inciting like so much like rage and like anger against people that they're gonna do something with it. That's the only outcome. That's what you do when you try to get someone like fired up to actually do something, not to get fired up and to sit down and be like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, but that doesn't give it a justification to make it okay. It's like,
yeah. Well, going back to the the justification and people having these like bullshit arguments. So one of the biggest issues that I mean, it's always been an issue, but it just especially rampant on Facebook nowadays is just like the sheer misinformation that gets spread all the time. So the best way I can relate this is that like I remember back when like Obama was like a fresh new president, and my fucking grandmother would send me literally chainmail of Obama's raising troops from so and so in this like hidden state somewhere in the United States. Like, look, he's coming for our guns. He's going to enact martial law, and then seeing shit like, oh yeah, he's from Kenya. His birth certificate's not real. Like, just sending me like just crazy ass chainmail shit that she 100% believed because she got it from some person that was like really close to her. And like shit like that happens on Facebook. People are posting these crazy conspiracy theories, and then like they're like, oh well, hey, I saw this, and like, did you know this is happening? And they're just spouting it off. Like, I can't tell you, there were several times when I was at work and a coworker of mine would say something to me, something political, something that just sounded fucking nuts. And so I'm sitting there, it's like, I don't think that's true. She's like, oh, no, I've definitely seen it. Like, people have been sharing it all over the place. Like, it's happening. And I literally, Google search.
Yeah, I've done that so many times.
All I had to do was just the title of the article, and the very first thing, no, this is not happening. This is debunked. Next 5 articles, no, this isn't real.
Who debunked it?
It would literally, like, some would be just like major news outlets, some would be Snopes, some would be like, it doesn't.
Snopes, George Soros, and though you said the media outlets, liberal.
Yeah,
I don't believe a word they say. I mean,
no, but you see, but then that goes back into what I was going to say is that so then it's like one Google search and it's like no, not true, like that is not true, and then exactly what you were saying. Well, that's what the mainstream media wants you to believe. See, I get my sources from reputable sources, so like. Yeah, of course, big media is going to tell you this, but this is actually happening behind the scenes. It's like, what the fuck am I going to do with that? There's no fucking way I'm going to take that
really smart so bad that when the correct answer is presented to them, they think they have the better information.
Yeah, they have a hard time of admitting that they were wrong because the fucking president has a hard time admitting when he lost too. I mean,
exactly,
it's like exact same.
It's the exact same. I mean, he struggles with it so much.
Yeah, but I mean, just that fact that people seriously. I mean, that's a problem. Is that even if I did present that to most of those kind of people, their argument's going to be that exact thing that Zach just said was. Oh, well, my sources are better than yours. But, like, just the fact that you're just spouting off all this crazy shit and you, like, literally just one type into Google and immediately say that's not true. I don't know.
Like, how can you be so stupid? Like, I don't understand it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people that do it, like, especially, like, how you said, like, you'd see it on Facebook or something, like, I think that these people are just, like, ignorant to, like, the ways, I mean, I guess this is kind of pessimistic, but I feel like most people are just, like, ignorant to, like, the ways of the internet and like how predatory it is and like how much these people want you to believe these bullshit like stories that they're putting out, but like they'll just see something and they see like it's a news article and like I mean I'd be willing to bet big money that like 90% of people that like share like these outlandish like crazy like articles like don't read the article. They just see the headline and they just like want to copy and paste the headline or share the headline. But
Yeah.
I mean, you can just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's real. Like I'd be willing to argue that there's probably more fake shit on the internet than there is real, like actual like news. Like just because you see it on the internet and someone says that this is real and it's like some growing conspiracy theory or whatever, it doesn't make it real. Like you need to do your own independent research and like draw your own facts, but everyone's too fucking lazy or stupid to like want to put in that effort to take the 5 minutes to Google something where they just follow the mass opinion. They're like, well, other Trumpers are really getting on to like this whole whatever type of fraud. So I'm going to go with it too, and I'm going to share this thing.
And that's what's so
Copy
funny
and
to me
paste
is
it.
that they call people who just watch regular
Sheep.
news. Yes, they call them sheep, and it's like you guys are literally the fucking definition of sheep. You see a Facebook post and you're like, yeah, that's real, that's true.
Anything I read, if it is anything of substance, I immediately fact check it.
Yeah, you should
like,
always take like any bit of like information with like a little. You should always have like some kind of scope of scrutiny. Like you just can't believe like anything like
Jackie
anybody
Chan died.
said.
Like I will just
Yes, yeah,
I will just Google it.
time.
Just Google it. Like,
it does.
is it real? And you will know instantly.
Yeah.
Like you could do it with all of it.
That's something
mean,
else. Is that what's crazy to me is that the second I hear a headline that sounds fucking crazy, like to me immediately sounds crazy, and I'm like, I bet you if I Google that, that's not true. But there are people who like they don't have that filter in their brains. They see this outlandish. Nancy Pelosi is secretly trying to take over the White House, and they're like, I believe it. No basis in reality. They're just like, that doesn't sound crazy to me. That's real.
And then you click on the article, and then you like actually start reading it, and it has like nothing to do really with the title. Like it's just a clickbait title, and it says like Nancy Pelosi just like offered like or just like drew up like some new like law or something, or if she wanted to push like some new like more bailouts for something in the stimulus for whatever, like, for an example. But it's like really small, like minute things, but they like blow it up to like this huge article. It's like Nancy Pelosi has taken massive steps to remove President Trump from office, and they go and it's like, yeah, she just like signed a bill.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Well,
or like
see,
something.
And,
it's like,
and that's crazy to me that people like legitimately people do not have that filter in their brain. Like this, like all of us. The second someone says like some kind of crazy article title, like we can all tell. Okay, there's no fucking way that's real, and if it is, like that would be the biggest. I would already see it like popping up on my fucking Twitter timeline or like the the news bulletins whenever they pop up on your screen, like breaking news is like that would be the fucking crazy shit I've ever heard, but. They're just like, yeah, no, it's completely real. Like I don't know how people don't have that in their brains. Like
and a lot of them too. They've started like turning on themselves. I guess like most Republicans because
yeah, they have.
I mean, like Mitt Romney has been like really like outspoken against like the whole like basis of
I have
the
a lot
fraudulent.
more respect
Me
for
too.
Mitt Romney over these last 4 years than I have. I mean, like I liked him when he ran for the initial presidency, but after seeing like how he has probably been the most outspoken about how he does not like what Trump does.
He has a fucking backbone.
Yeah, and he has like his own sense of morality. He's like, look, I could easily sell myself out, and like this probably isn't the best political move for me to say something
That's
against
the whole
Trump.
point of it.
Yeah. Well, that's why a lot of these Republicans are going with it because later on, whenever their time comes, they can be like, "Look, I supported President Trump," or what because it's good for them in the long run. But Romney's like, "Fuck this." This is because like that. I like Romney. I like Romney for doing that. Like I might not agree with all of his policies, but I mean, like you said, at least he's got a fucking backbone. At least he'll stand up for what he believes in. Fuck.
Yeah, I've seen videos of like him at like an airport and like people coming up to him and they're like, "You're a disgrace. You're supposed to represent us, and you are not representing your party." They're like, why are you doing this to Trump? Like, you're a scumbag. Like,
they heckled his ass.
So I don't
you're
know.
worthless. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? It's like, motherfucker, he's doing his goddamn job.
Yeah.
I try not to put too much stake in Twitter because I think we talked about it before, but I feel like it's kind of one of those things where the loudest people are going to be the only ones you hear, and you're going to get one set of things.
You mostly hear like the fringe people on either side.
But like, when Pence made that big statement and basically said that he is not going to oppose.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God! Like just in the comments on Twitter, I mean, I didn't see a single person that was saying like, good on you for sticking up to this. This is ridiculous. Like literally 30 in a row. Just traitor. You could have had it made, and you fucking blew it. You're dead to us, or your career's over. Nice job, dumbass, or whatever. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's just crazy. Like,
but you're a sheep because you wanted to try and stand up for what you believe. You're a sheep. But us, going off of what everything that God, Trump Daddy says is real, you mean we're the wolves. I mean, we're the patriots. I mean, we're the ones fighting this thing, obviously.
Yeah, and that's something
it's
else.
Just so hypocritical.
Well,
like
what's
everything.
so ironic to me about this entire, like, what has happened, especially in this last year has been nuts, but the Republican Party has always been the one of, like, we are constitutionalists, we only believe in what the founding fathers intended, and then literally the second that they lose this election and Trump is like, oh, whatever, they try to dismantle the very things that the founding fathers put into the Constitution to protect it from people just being like, you know what, I'm not leaving, I'm staying. I'm not fucking leaving. Like, it's like, immediately try to dismantle it. Like, trying to tell Pence, like, yeah, you can block this when he has no power to block it. And even he's like, I can't do that. That's not a power invested in me. They're like, no, you fucking do it, pussy. Like, absolutely do it. And then they're trying to do it. They're basically saying, like, yeah, no, Trump can just stay in the White House and, like, invoke this whatever amendment so he doesn't have to leave. It's like, that's what a fucking dictator does, you stupid motherfuckers.
There would be articles.
I'm a constitutionalist, freedom, whatever. Like, fuck tyrants. Like, the liberals are the fucking tyrants. But if my candidate loses an election, like, he can fucking stay there because he's my king. People, I literally see shit like saying, like, Trump is my king. I've heard people
that is so disgusting.
I have seen people. Like one of Trump's, like, I don't know, like very top supporters, or like a guy that knew him. I can't remember what it was, but literally saying he's like, this is bullshit. My allegiance isn't to the Republican Party or to democracy. It's to Donald Trump. And I'm like, what? Are you fucking listening to yourself right now? Are you that fucking crazy? Like,
yeah,
it's just it's absolutely it's absolutely insane. So like it is, and I think the Republicans who are like the real Republicans are taking a look at what's happening right now, and even they were complicit in it because they didn't fucking speak up. They went along with it, and I think they're like sitting there being like, "Oh fucking shit, we have just let this monster out of the bag."
Well, that's true too. I feel like I've seen more people after the riot thing.
Yeah,
that was kind of the breaking point for them.
Yeah,
like I started seeing people, or at least hearing people that I didn't think would flip on it, and then they flipped on it. So.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was just the straw that broke the camel's back, which it should be whenever you have a fucking image from Reuters of a flashbang going off with 2,000 people with burning shit in front of the fucking Capitol building.
Yeah, it's so crazy just to think about, too, because I saw a few different, like, caption pictures that was, like, just really, it really puts the event that happened, like, into perspective. It's, like, one of them, I think I put this in the group message, but I'll say it again, but, one of them was a picture of like a dude like just holding like he had a Confederate flag and it's just like leaning like over his shoulder, like, and he was like standing in between like two prominent figures in the Civil War, like statues of them, like one was for the South and one was for the North or something. But like the caption was like the Confederate flag only made it as far north as like Fort so and so. It never breached like D.C. or the Capitol until today.
Oh, I think I saw that. Like, this is the flag during the entire Civil War had never been displayed in a building or something like that.
And like a federal government building of the United States until today. And there was like another one that was like there's never been like such a breach of like terrorism against a government building, like a federal government building, since the War of 1812, and it happened in 1814, I think, when the British burned the White House down, and they repainted it, and it became the White House. But nothing like that, like no, such a large mass of people, like with the intent to destroy, hasn't entered the building for the past 206 years, I guess, or 207, it's 2021. But it's like, when you think about it that way, it's like, holy shit, like this isn't just like another like, yeah, man, damn, that was crazy. But, you know,
it should be like a 9/11 thing. Like, you should like remember where you were when it fucking happened. But it just seems like it literally seems like
it just
what
seems
else
like,
is going to happen.
Yeah,
like, I don't know anything.
Well, that's just like the trend. That's what I was going to say. It's just like, damn, bro, like that's 2020. You know, like shit's crazy, man. But, you know, like we'll just keep going. Like, no, like this is like beyond like the like minor bullshit that gets like played up to like be like big things. Like this is beyond that. Like this is like groundbreaking. Like this is.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and I tried explaining this to my dad when we talked about it. It's like yeah, like I'm a Democrat, but I'm very pro-American. Like I love my country. I love being able to like even just have like the ability to talk about shit like this. Like myself, I love like the country, like what it stands for, like at its core. I mean, obviously there's flaws there. Like I'm not a bleeding like nationalist. Like I won't like say like America's the best. It doesn't fucking matter. Like we obviously have huge systemic problems, but that's what pissed me off the most is like when I just get to see like it doesn't matter like what group it was. It could have been a Black Lives Matter group, or it could have been the Trumpers, or it could have been fucking a bunch of furries that raided the Capitol building. If anyone in that like larger group gets to go inside the Capitol building and do whatever the fuck they want, that pisses me off. Like that makes me fearful for like the security that we have like as a nation. Like we can't protect like our own like rulers like from our own people. It's like what the fuck can we do?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's very concerning. And like what Zach had said a minute ago, like, you know, this should be a moment of you remember where you're at. Like I remember putting this in the group chat because it was just so fucking nuts to me. I'm sitting there at work and I'm reading articles because I got nothing to fucking do. And all of a sudden there's like breaking news, like, because I've been reading about the protests like all morning because I knew people were out there. And I was like, these dumb motherfuckers. And then I see that, like, they have stormed the Capitol building. And I was literally just sitting there like, what? And I'm like, what does it mean? Like, like they got up on the step, and I'm like reading it that they're like breaking in. And I was like, holy fucking shit! And I'm reading that. Twitter's going fucking nuts, and I'm just like, it was like this crazy moment. So some time passes, and then like Joe Biden goes to give a speech, and I didn't even know that. Like I was just like so appalled. I was like, I can't believe this is fucking happening right now. I was like, So I stepped out into the hallway. No one ever turns this fucking like big ass TV on that we have in the lobby, but I did. I went up, I turned it on, I turned the audio on, and I was like, and I just turned it to the news station that was on. So it was like CNN, and it was like Joe Biden giving a speech, and he was just like, you know, condemning it all. He's like, we're better than this, and then, you know, at the end he's like, looks at the camera and he tells Trump, he's like, Trump, step up. And I'm just like, and literally I'm just like standing there. I'm like the only guy in the lobby, and I'm just watching him like give this speech about what the fuck's happening, and I'm like, I don't think I can forget this. Like, this is like, I will always remember that when the fucking Capitol building was stormed by these crazy ass protesters, terrorists, whatever the fuck you want to call them, I was standing there watching Joe Biden give this speech when I should have been working. Like, I just can't get that out of my, it was a fucking like, just this crazy moment. I remember putting it in there. I was like, I don't know. I just feel like this will be one of those things I'll look back on and remember exactly where I was.
Give it a few months, and Alan Jackson will come out with a song about it.
Alan Jackson?
Yeah. But wasn't he the one that did the one where he's like, where were you when the world stopped?
Oh, yeah.
No, shit, no.
Yeah. A lot of the time I try to be empathetic because I try to reason with that it's just ignorance. Like I don't think that a lot of the time it's intentional. Like when some people are like that, like with the way that they, you know, they just make declarative statements on things that are clearly not true, and then whenever you present them with, you know, the counterfactual, they just I don't accept where it's coming from. Like, you know, obviously, like at that point, there's no getting through to that person. But you know, there's clearly a lot of people that are susceptible to that, and I think it's just because they are ignorant. Like they don't know. Like they do not know how to seek the appropriate information for themselves,
or they don't want to.
Yeah.
I think that's mostly is that they don't like. I feel that most of them like know that you can like there's other sides of the coin, but they are just so far like entrenched in like their ways and like their morals that they've built up from this guy that like they don't want to acknowledge that the other side of the coin exists. Like if you flip that coin over, like you're immediately going to hell forever or something. It's the worst thing.
Well,
like,
so like a little bit of a
imaginable.
Yeah, so like a little bit of a sidebar, but it kind of relates to that. So, you know, back when before I kind of broke with religion, that was literally my mindset. Was that I acknowledged that there was like all the science and they had all of these reasons that they believed why big events like the Big Bang or evolution was a real thing. But but one of the reasons I chose so vehemently to be like, well, they don't know what they're talking about was because I knew if I listened to their arguments and I listened to everything that they had to say, that it would convince me otherwise. And that was not something that I want, especially being like
willful ignorance.
Yeah, it was willful ignorance. It's like I knew if I sat and listened to them and they logically explained it to me that I would end up agreeing with them, and that was something I did not want because that was a core foundation at the time of who I was. I was someone that was religious, so I think it could probably go into that same context in politics. It's like some people don't want to listen to the other side because they know it might make sense and they might be swayed another way. And I don't know how many people do think like that, but I mean, just coming from me, I bet there are people that are like that who just don't want to hear the other side.
Well, I think that's, I honestly think that is the biggest problem, is that if I were to talk, like if someone were to get, like, I mean, I'm not going to mention any names. There are people that I know and I respect a lot, and I will see them put stuff on Facebook that, like, I can't believe it. And I know that if we were to sit down and talk about these things, like, we would come to a common ground and we would have a good conversation. We would, like, I do think that they would listen, and at some point, if we were to just discuss it, we would come to a position where, I would probably see certain areas that they're talking about and I would empathize with them and I could understand, and, likewise. And, a part of it's like the Iran and Russia thing, and just the nature of social media, the echo chamber effect. It gets to the point where if you try to listen to anything else, then, well, okay, one, you're not being loyal to your side, which is a huge problem. Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, I think that if people actually sat down and talked to each other, it would not be the same way. But, I'm going to argue this point, and then all of the people that are hearing me make this point, the majority of them are going to agree with my point. So I am now emboldened to, make these outrageous posts or do these things, because there's no one that's going to check you or that's going to hold any of the things you're saying under scrutiny. You're just going to get a bunch of people like, amen, underneath it. That's just not how just any discussion should go.
Discourse really should go. There should always be some sort of abrasion or like some sort of challenge to whatever you're trying to put out. And I mean, if you're any kind of like any form of intellectualism at all within you should kind of want that. Like, you should want to challenge what you believe in. Like, if you truly believe in like whatever it is, like, so hard, you should encourage and like want to be like, yeah, I want to hear like what you have to say, because I want to like try and prove like how much like this means to me. But it's like gone to the point where and like you said, like an echo chamber, like that's mostly how like social media has become. And it's made it 1,000 times worse, because you can just surround yourself with like-minded people that think the same thing, where it's like you have 1,000 friends on Facebook and 900 of them all think like the same as you, and like post like and repost all these like conspiracy QAnon like type of shit. It's like, dude, there's so many people that think this way. It's like every day, like I see people that all they're talking about is this. It's like, yeah, because that's all you surround yourself with. Like, that's just because what you perceive as the ideology of like a mass group of society is not reflective on what is actually the ideology behind most people. Like, just because you surround yourself with so many people that hold these beliefs that you do doesn't mean that it's the same in a broadened scale across the whole country. I think it's just a hard thing for most people to get around or to come to terms with, or
and
they don't want
not
to.
Just like a certain group of people either. It literally is everyone, because I mean, we have friends and we know.
Oh yeah, definitely both sides. That's not just like a right wing problem. That's everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that if anyone was actually listening to this, that let's say was similar to the people that we are talking about, they would just be like, "Oh yeah, it's just 3." Democrat dumbasses or whatever, talking about Trump. And like, I fucking hate the Democratic Party too. I think that more so than the Republican Party, they support things that I personally think are right. But, as a general institution, I do think they're fucking crooked. I mean, I know they're crooked. and so are or so is the right, and that doesn't mean that I can just say, okay, well, I think that the right are trying to take over the world, and there is a secret underground army of people being trained by Trump to do this. Like,
I'm going to
because
isolate
that's ridiculous. I mean, like, I think you have to. If you don't like someone or what they stand for, that's fine. But you have to have some sense of reality.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's funny that you say that. Like you're like, oh, a bunch of Democratic dumbasses sitting around. So it was like a couple of podcasts in, and we'd only done like 2 or 3 or something like that. And one of my coworkers' husbands, I guess she was playing it in front of him. And so they both kind of knew some of the stuff that we were talking about.
It's the coworker.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they kind of knew some of the stuff that we were talking about. And what we were saying at the time, and I feel like I have definitely, in the last probably 2 years, especially since the midterms, like I've become to get like more left. So like during this time, I really wasn't like super Democrat. I would say I was definitely moderate. I was definitely centrist.
Well,
like
I don't think we got like really political in any of our early podcast episodes.
We did like a little bit on some like areas. And
I don't think it was like
if it could be at all perceived to be that way, it's going to be sniffed out.
That's what I was going to say.
We were probably talking about some kind of social issue or something.
It might not have been directly political like how this one has been, but it's perceived as a left-leaning idea.
Exactly. So where I was going with that is that we were talking about something in that regard. We didn't even think anything of it. We were just making like our own rational comments about it. And later, when I was like hanging out with her, and her husband showed up, she was like, "Oh yeah, blah blah about the podcast." He's like, "Oh yeah, I've listened to your podcast and you and all your liberal ass friends sitting around talking about all your whatever." And I was like, and I literally started laughing. I was like, because at the time no one had been on that was like a self-proclaimed liberal. I was like, literally none of us are liberals. That's not even. I was like, you drew your conclusion from listening to our couple of conversations that we had. What? I couldn't even tell you that. I don't know at what point of the podcast that we were on, but at the time it was no one that was like self-proclaimed like liberal. And I was like, I literally started laughing. I was like, we're not liberal. What are you talking about? I was like, we were just talking about like some social issues, some opinions that we have. I was like, just because it might be slightly left-leaning, we're liberals? Like that's
that's the problem. Everyone thinks like you have to choose like one side, and like whatever side you choose, like you wholeheartedly have to believe like everything for them. Like if you were talking to like a Republican, they're like, well, who'd you vote for? It's like, well, I voted for Biden. And they're like, oh, you fucking, it's probably just because you want free college and
exactly.
you want everything handed to you. You're lazy, you don't want to have a job. You just want the government to take care of it. It's like, slow your roll, motherfucker. It's like, just because I voted for someone because, I mean, that's what's great about America. That's why I fucking love it. You can draw your own conclusions about anything.
Or if you voted for Trump, that doesn't mean. And people will say, "Oh, you voted for Trump. Okay, yeah,
you're a racist
piece of shit or something." Like, yeah, it's the exact same thing. And
exactly.
I don't know. It's crazy. People we know on the same side do the same shit.
That's just the political spectrum that we have as a society like slowly created, where it's like so like bipartisan, where it's you're either 100% for one side or 100% for the other. Like there is no middle ground. Like,
well, I literally got told at one time we were talking about politics and I mentioned something. I was like, well, to be honest with you, I don't really like to label myself as one or the other because I feel like that kind of like narrows my view. I don't really want to, subscribe to one side or the other. Like I feel like there's plenty of middle ground to be made. And they looked at me and they were like, he's like, yeah, but today's world is so divided. Like you kind of have to pick one or the other. And I was like, no, you don't.
That's the fucking problem. It's that you've created this world where you have to choose one side or the other, and then you have to, you might be more like right leaning, and you're like, I'm all for like I want like my guns, I want to secure the borders, whatever, I want, the whatever
lower taxes,
exactly, whatever. But you could be like. But I still support like the Black Lives Matter movement or something. It's
or I'm a Republican, and I think that you should be able to smoke weed at your house if you want to. Like, I know so many people that are like staunch Republicans that, well, hell yeah, why does the government get to tell me what I put in my body? But then, so like, clearly you can make a decision on what you think is right. You can choose these things that you support.
When it comes down to it, and like they feel like forced to like choose like a side, which I feel like is like what happened like with the Capitol. Like they're kind of like being forced to like pick a side. Like there's like some big divide that you have to choose a side on. Like they're just gonna go with like whatever political party they more like kind of fit to, even though they don't agree with everything that political party stands for. That's why I have like a kind of hard time labeling myself as like, or I kind of hesitate when I'm like, I guess I'm a Democrat, but I have more like left-leaning ideologies, but I'm not a fucking Democrat.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
I'm just a guy with opinions, and this is how I would like things to go. It doesn't mean I'm one way or another. It doesn't mean I'm a freeloading hippie that wants to everyone to do blow in the streets or what the fuck ever, and it doesn't make me, or on the opposite side, doesn't make me a racist, xenophobic, like Nazi. Like you can pick and choose like between both. It's just not one way or the other. But that's just how everyone is geared to believe.
Well, like if the premise of what your coworker said was that ultimately you do have to choose realistically because that's the way our government works.
That wasn't the
point
they were making.
Exactly. Like if you want to make that argument, that is pretty true, and because there are two candidates, and so you have to go with the one that you most support, and you might not support all those things, but the premise that because you support this side, you have to think this because that's what that side thinks.
That was more of the thing that they were not going on like an intellectual level as you were talking. They were literally just like, well, it's so divided, you have to pick a side. Like you have to be one or the other.
Just because a vote for someone doesn't mean that you wholeheartedly like believe everything they say. Like,
well, and that's why I don't going to best represent your needs or desires.
Well, that's why
beliefs.
I call bullshit on all these people on both sides. That it's like, oh, I am such a fucking hardcore conservative, or oh, such a fucking hardcore leftist. It's like there is no fucking way, because some of the beliefs that these parties have are actually in direct contradiction of one another. It's like there is no fucking way you came to your own independent conclusion on all of those things. It's like if you actually sat down and really thought about what it is that you think, there is no fucking way you're going to check off every single part. Like these people delude themselves into thinking that they actually do believe all of these things because they treat it like it's some kind of like competition that you can win. Like if I am.
What's a team sport, dude?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I am the most conservative, or you get another beer. That's the only way we're gonna ever make any progress is that like if I am the most conservative and I can own all the libtards, and it's not a sport. Like you can't win politics. It's not how it works.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this too, I think, before, but I think I try. I mean, I get sucked in like everyone else, but I definitely try to take those things with a grain of salt too, because a lot of what I'm talking about is based on what I see on social media, which again, what I see on social media may or may not be representative of what, your average guy down the street thinks. But the more that social media becomes ingrained into our society, it is shaping those things. So whereas before there might be a guy that thought that, Obama was training a militia in a state to take over, the government and declare martial law.
Reggie Love and Larry Sinclair.
Right. There might be this guy down the street, right? Like some wacko dude. But now that the wacko dude
got a platform,
has generated his craziness to 80 million people, let's say 2 million people out of 80 million believe that. So his influence has been magnified by 2 million.
Yeah.
And, over time, it's not going to just be certain people's opinions. It's a collective, and it's going to shape everyone's opinion.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we can't delude ourselves. What happened at the Capitol would have, I'm not going to say never happened, but it would not have been possible without our current social media climate. Like, it's just social media.
And the Black Lives Matter thing, too. I mean, there would definitely be riots and, and all of what happened, because it's not like history has repeated itself. I mean, that same exact thing happened in the 60s.
90s, too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they definitely would have happened, but the extent to which they happen and the duration, it magnifies those things.
Yeah, exactly. It just helps spring it along. and
keep it going.
yeah,
and keep the fuel going.
And like you said, what is become now, as we've clearly seen, dangerous about it is that. Yeah, some of these crazy things, crazy people, crazy ideas now have a platform. They can now reach millions of people whose minds are maybe, more susceptible to believe in this kind of crazy shit, or maybe would have not thought that, but because of their, who else is liking and sharing it, they now see this fucking crazy idea and now it's seeped into their brain. Like, it's just, it is just, like you said, absolutely magnified it. So.
Yeah,
I'm sure, none of us can attest to it because we're too young, but I'm sure that there's like the people that have like such a large like platform now, like the fringe, I guess we would like label them as now, like, or probably like I'm sure they were around like before the dawn of the internet too, but they just didn't have a way to like get out like what they were saying. But now, since we're in like the age of so much like information being thrown at us at so much, like you can, there's just no way for you to be able to process like what's real or not if you don't have like any inclination to. You can just like mindlessly like take in like so much, like as much as you can. Like there's an unlimited amount of misinformation that you could consume if you like so wanted to. But
honestly, and it's just how it is. The president has created a situation that, like there clearly was division in this country before, but this president has specifically ignited it to a level that, I don't even know at what point it's going to stop. Because, if you think, like, we could break it down individually. Let's say there's a guy that puts out information that says that COVID is a hoax, right? Okay, and so then you have all these people that are coming together. Yeah, you know what? I think it's a hoax too. Whatever the liberal media is just trying to do that to shut our businesses down, right? Well, okay. Well, so now you have let's say you have a relatively small group of people, and then you have the president of the United States saying that Fauci doesn't know what he's talking about. So now you turned. Like let's say a group of round numbers out of 10 people, let's say one person believes this. Well, now 4 out of 10 believe this because the president is telling you that he's
emboldened so many people.
Yeah, he has taken confidence away from our health system. Okay, so like let's say there are people that think that the election was stolen. Okay, well now the president is saying the election was stolen. So now all of these people do not have confidence in our electoral system.
Ultimately, like a large fault of where we're at is just like us as a people have like we've just slowly led ourselves like that way. But when it comes back to it, like most of the blame like will fall back like on our leader because he didn't do what he should as the leader of the free world to like be peaceful to like try and extinguish like the whatever
the things that are harmful to the institutions that are most important in the country.
Exactly. Yes. Like he that's I feel like if you are a Republican that's like kind of on the fringe, like that's where it should be like the drawing line. Like this guy just like his failure to act like speaks so much volumes that like
it's not even his failure to act. It's not just him not saying anything. It's literally I'm thinking throwing gasoline on fire.
Right, well, I'm thinking more along the lines of like the Capitol thing, like where he really like didn't do much of anything.
And then he came out and said like, "You guys go home. We love you. Thank you.
You're very special. We all love you, but go home."
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
My concern is that, the Republican Party has been getting increasingly more right-winged as time has gone on. But this new Trumpism world that we're in now is something that's like very concerning. Because to me, I can tell a distinct difference between the Republican Party and then the Republican Party with and after Trump. And to me, it's almost like it's like a new sect. It's even further right, and people. Cults of person. I've never seen Republicans act like that in my fucking life.
It's culty. Like
I've never seen
like
that.
All, like just idolizing like one person and believing like everything they say like wholeheartedly. Not putting any kind of scrutiny to it at all, or just wholeheartedly believe, like one person says, like that's what a fucking cult does.
Yeah, well,
that's
no,
what
exactly.
sheep fucking do. You goddamn moron.
Yeah. So my concern is that this now new Trump Republican Party won't go away. And
I'm afraid of that too.
And so I've listened to a lot of
think
like,
it will.
well, you see, here's the thing. So I've listened to
really
a lot of
so.
like not Republican political podcasts here lately, and a lot of the Democrats to me are almost naively like hopeful about it. They're like, oh yeah, no, this is absolutely going away. Like this mindset, like it's gone with Trump. And my problem is that he had such this fucking crazy following of all of these conservatives out there that I have never seen before. Like I was just saying, never seen. No one acted like this for Bush. No one acted like this for fucking Romney. I mean, maybe Reagan, maybe, but nothing like this magnitude. And I don't know if it can just go away, because now I'm afraid what has happened is now that we have opened up the floodgates to what the Republican Party is now. So now, okay, if it's not Trump running in 2024, it's a guy that is
He's the next Trump.
He's the same. He's the same. No bullshit kind of attitude.
Like
Will
this-
just say whatever the fuck he wants.
like this is who the Republican Party, like that's like who they want now. They need like another person who's gonna speak
See, I
his
don't think-
mind and
I don't
say
think-
what he wants.
It
But
doesn't make
like,
sense.
Yeah,
for them to do that.
I say this because like there have been several points in time where parties have made like shifts in their values and what it is that they believed, and it's been a while since we've really seen one. And to me, this is the biggest contrast that I have seen since I have been able to pay attention to politics. Is that, I mean, you know, the Democratic Party getting increasingly more left, like that's, but it's like a natural progression. But then I see this like just sheer fucking like jump off sidebar from like the Republicans of like 2012 and the Republicans of what is now 2021. And it's like, I think this might be the new norm for the Republican Party. I hope not. I hope that we still have, hope we still can retain the people like the Romneys, but just the fact that people like the Romneys and even Pence, when he's actually doing what he's supposed to do, are being just completely fucking torn apart by all of these people who support, you know, the Trumpian
who
mindset.
think that this is like how the Republican Party is now.
Yeah,
And if you don't stand with it, they're fucking Anakin Skywalker from Episode 3. They're like, if you're not with me, then you're against me.
Exactly, and they're taking that mindset. They're calling people of their own party who, you know, if they don't support this idea, well, fuck you. You're a traitor to our party. Like you're a traitor to this country. And it's like that mindset that worries me. I think that even if it doesn't. People are like, oh, just like tune out Trump and like this will eventually go away. I don't think it's this slow progression of going away. It's
not the problem isn't that like if we're able to out-tune Trump, it's if the people that believe everything he says and take so much of what he says as gold, can they out-tune him whenever he is gone?
Well, I think that there's a lot of people, like you have clearly Trump has a very fanatical group of people that support him, you know, no matter what. But that wasn't all 80 million people that voted for Trump.
You're right.
A huge chunk of that are people that they don't want higher taxes. They vote red. I just vote straight ticket red every time. Like most people are not crazy Trump fanatics. They
right.
just
I don't
just
think that.
They're hitching on to their team's wagon, and it's not in the Republican Party's interest to have another person like Trump, because this presidency has harmed the reputation of the Republican Party. And I mean, they clearly know that at this point. That's why they're all moving away from him at this point, because they know it's over. There's no more interest for them to continue to support his crazy shit, because they know it's over. Now they're just doing damage control and trying to break away from it and actually, you know, do what they think is going to reflect best on them. So I don't think they're going to come back and, we're going to bring out another like really radical, charismatic dude, like, because they've seen what happened.
Well, but there's also several people within the Republican Party that, I mean, have followed Trump to the bitter end.
Well, yeah.
But that still makes up like a decent percentage of people in Congress. So it's like, you know, what happens if more people like those people who were with Trump to the bitter end? What if more people like them keep getting elected, and the people who are more the moderate Republicans like Romneys are like pushed out?
They weren't in support of Trump because, I mean, realistically, I don't think. I mean, some of them probably were, But the majority of those people that did that were not in direct support of all of the things that Trump did. They are just trying to show Republicans that I am going to support this party no matter what. Like, I support the Republican Party.
And I see what
and
you're
that's
saying.
why the people are not doing it anymore, because there's, like I said, there's no more benefit to them to continue to support that. At the time, you have people that are like, yes, we're going to go and we're going to fight this. Yeah, it's because they want to show Republican voters that I'm not going to fucking back down whenever we still have a chance.
Come election time, they can remind them whenever the Republican Party was up at bat for the election fraud, I was up there at the front line and I was arguing for them, like type of shit like that. Like, I'm sure there's that too, but I mean, it's just not. And I agree with Trevor that I want to believe that it'll go away, but it's not something that I can just think like this shit like happened, like, and we like brought this guy like in to like control our country. Like, if it's happened before, I don't think there's anything that can really like say that it's not going to happen again. I mean, if he wanted to, I guess he could run again. Well, not him. Well, not him. But I'm saying like,
but no, he technically can, unless they
it'd be a miracle if he's
right?
alive. But yeah, if you're impeached, you can't run again. But I'm saying like someone of the same caliber, like
right.
If we put like this kind of guy like in the White House,
and honestly, like
like if he tried to run like literally like in 2024, if Eric. That's his name, right? Eric?
Something.
Trump?
Yeah, Eric, and then there's like Don Jr.
I'm thinking of Don Jr.
Yeah.
Whatever. If one of them like wanted to put themselves on the ballot, like I feel like it's a time like critical thing too, because while like the fire's hot, like if they like put in like I'm gonna carry on my dad's legacy, like there's gonna be some people who are like, oh fuck yeah, I love Trump. I'm gonna let's keep the bandwagon going. I can see that,
and I think he'll still have like influence over not necessarily the party a little bit, but like voters. So now Trump, he still has his platform. He's still a fucking billionaire, whatever.
He don't got Twitter though, baby.
Former president, and he's like, okay, say he doesn't want to run in 2024, which I mean, if he can, I think he will. But say he doesn't want to run in 2024, but he's like, hey, all of my fucking loyal ass followers, like seriously, you got to support like this guy. Like I feel like he would still have a great amount of influence on what the voters would do, because then he can.
What is he gonna say?
Just encourage them to
vote for the Republican Party.
Well, no, for whatever crazy fucking Trumpian candidate that he thinks aligns most with his views.
Well, I mean, there's no chance that it's either you think that he's gonna encourage people to vote Republican or that's it. Like, there's no way that Trump's saying you should vote for Alan Jackson. People aren't gonna just vote for Alan Jackson because they are Republicans. I vote for the Republican. Oh, Alan Jackson ran as a Republican. Like, he's probably not going to fucking make it. I mean,
yeah, I'm just saying that I think the mindset, I think some of the influence that he currently has, I don't think that's just like an overnight thing that goes away. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for it to kind of phase back into what the Republican Party was beforehand.
Let's just think about it. What channels do you think that his ideologies are going to diffuse into the future of the Republican Party?
What do you mean? Like
you said that you don't think this is just going to go away. So by that you mean the Trump ideologies.
I think I know what you mean. I think that it would be probably like the not, for lack of a better term, like not PC, like just being like trying to put up a guy that's like there. He puts on the persona that he's there for the average Joe, and he says whatever he wants. Like, I'm not a politician type.
Okay, I mean, I think it's already that direction. I think that a lot of the time on the right is already like that anyway, which I could see that. But in terms of I think in terms of like the major things that you're talking, because I don't think you would consider that a necessarily problematic thing. Like, yeah, non-PC in the terms of like, being very aggressive and like Trump was, it's not good for anybody. But I don't know. I would consider that just, maybe a possible side effect. But
I just feel like once they, like the Republican Party, like since they've had like who they've had, like they're the next one they want to, like, we're going to want a guy that's got the same size of balls that Trump had. Like, we're not going to take some little pussy that's, not going to speak up for what we want. We need someone that's going to follow in his footsteps.
Mitch McConnell.
I think that. Who knows? I mean, who knows really? It's all just to try to get...
it's all speculation.
Rally people behind certain ideas, but I don't think that... I think that they clearly have seen that did not work out well for them. And they lost... Not only did they lose the election, they lost the Senate... Like, that no one thought they were going to lose. Like, it was kind of a long shot. And then they just got fucking swept. I mean, why would they say we need someone like this guy that fucked the party?
Why would they double
for
down
the next 8 years or whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
and I see that, and that's what I'm hoping is that they will come to their fucking senses and be like, all right, clearly that was a bad move. We got to start being a little bit more moderate about this shit.
Got PTS fucking D. It's like I can't just willfully believe that like it's gonna go away. Like that's obviously like what we all hope for. Like there's gonna be a really like dark stain on our like the way we run our government, but after time like it's just gonna go away and we're gonna forget about it. But with the way like shit goes now, it's like I just can't like wholeheartely believe that like it's just things are gonna go back to normal. I don't fucking know.
I don't even know what normal is anymore at this fucking point.
I can't believe and like tell myself that things are gonna be okay and gonna go back to normal because I don't know if they are gonna be because so much crazy shit happens.
At this point, you don't know. I just don't think there's an incentive for them.
Yeah,
that's the only thing. I mean.
I understand. I understand.
You make a good point. I'm not disagreeing with that, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I hope that.
But I definitely hold my breath because who knows? I mean, they might just be like, yeah. I mean, we're gonna get someone popular again, and we're gonna control it for 4 more years. That way, my pockets get fucking fat, nice and juicy, and then fuck it. I mean, they could do that.
Well, the only reason I'm hesitant is that like every time I'm like. Yeah, something like that would never happen. It fucking happens. Like, I would have never thought that people would storm the fucking Capitol. That wasn't even in, like, my parameter. I was like, that shit that happens, that's like, well, okay, we've really hit, like, bad times. And then almost, it's like, I'm sitting there at work and, oh, holy fucking shit, they're storming the Capitol. I literally didn't, I thought that was like...
Yeah, I see, like, reports and, like, videos of that, of, like, lesser nations, like, second or third world nations.
Yeah.
Where, like, the people are, like, revolting against their government and they're, like throwing Molotovs into like I don't know like some like form of like federal building like a government building. I'm like holy shit. I'm like things are going like fucking crazy and I don't know fucking Brazil
like France.
or something. Yeah, wherever.
I think what you're talking about what happened in France. I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, there's a lot.
The Molotov thing though, I think that was like recently.
I just kind of threw that out of my head, but I mean, sure. Like I mean, if you could see that and be like, man, like France is like fucking like crazy. Like shit's like going pretty wild. Like that just happened here. Like. It's not normal. It's not like something that you can just kind of throw off and be like, I mean, I got to go to work tomorrow. Like things are going to like, just go back to the way it was. Things are okay. Like, no, like this isn't normal. This shit doesn't happen. I mean, it happens around the world, but it does not happen normally in our country. And it should be alarming. If it's not alarming to you, then that's a problem.
Oh, yeah, I think it's very alarming. Yeah, and basically, the point I was making is that if something like that can happen, which I never thought would, it's like I don't have any expectations anymore. I don't have any fucking super strong predictions because I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. This country's so fucking crazy right now. I have no idea.
The only thing that's consistent is the memes.
Hell
Whatever crazy shit happens, we're going to have some fire memes on it.
Hell yeah. All right, well, why don't we end it there? Well, fucking good conversation about politics and the state of being. It'll be interesting to go back and listen to this like later on in time. Be like, oh shit, we did a podcast right after that happened. That's dope. But yeah, glad I got to talk to you guys about it. But we will see you guys next week on another episode of the Weekly Charles. But yeah, I've been your host, Trevor King Minor. This has been Zach. This has been Chandler. And have a good night, everyone.